What is the moral difference between cutting off one guy's head, or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, and dropping a big bomb on a hospital and killing a whole bunch of sick kids?
That's our new job in the world, bombing brown people. Iraq, Panama, Grenada, Libya, you got some brown people in your country, tell them to watch the fuck out, or we'll goddamn bomb them. Now you might be noticing, I don't feel about that war the way we were told we were supposed to feel about that war, the way we were ordered and instructed by the United States government to feel about that war. See, my mind doesn't work that way. I got this real moron thing I do, it's called thinking.
While Judge Carlin may seem like he is making fun of the American government, he is actually trying to expose the tricky way in which Western and European society operates. Let me show you how, and then we will jump right into a rare Judge Carlin video that sums it all up. In World War I, American citizens were swayed into a battle that they never wanted. The USA government pulled off this very trick using propaganda to turn the tide of opinion. Noam Chomsky and Judge Carlin caught onto this trick. And today, we're diving into their insights. War isn't just about battles. It's a power play, benefiting only a select few. To truly grasp how wars are sold to us, we need to uncover the secrets of the propaganda machine. 1916 was a pivotal year. Woodrow Wilson stepped into the presidency with a promise: peace without victory. Sounds noble, right? But here's a twist. The general public, they were not really interested in the German war. It did not seem like their fight. But the government, they had other plans. They were all in for the war. So how do you get a nation on board? Enter the Creel Commission. Within 6 months, the Creel Commission had successfully transformed a peace-loving population into one that was practically baying for German blood. And who was behind this massive shift of opinion? It's the intellectuals, those who believed that they knew what was better for the USA. They played on fears, emotions, and patriotism, driving an entire nation into a war that they initially had no interest in. This leads us into Walter Lippmann. Walter Lippmann was a titan among American journalists. He had some pretty controversial views on democracy and the role of the public. He believed in the power of propaganda, not just as a tool, but as a necessity. According to him, propaganda was the key to manufacturing consent. In simpler terms, making people agree to things that they initially don't want through the magic of tailored messaging. Lippmann argued that the common interests of the population, the things that truly matter to all of us, are often too complex for the average person. He believed that these interests could only be understood by a select few, a specialized class of quote-unquote responsible men. These men are meant to be the thinkers, the planners, and are believed to be the ones who truly get the bigger picture. But where does that leave the rest of us? In Lippmann's world, society was divided into 3 groups. The first groups are the owners, and these are the folks who own the country. Not literally, but of course, they hold the power, the influence, and the wealth, normally called the 1%. Then there is a specialized class, and this group works for the owners. They are a small percentage, but play a massive role. They analyze, execute, make decisions, and essentially run the show in various systems, be it political, economic, or ideological. They're the brains behind the operations, and Lippmann believed that these are the only ones that understand and should act on the common interests. And last is the bewildered herd, which is most of us. They're the ones who go about our daily lives doing the mundane tasks. In Lippmann's eyes, our main role as the bewildered herd is just to watch from the sidelines. We're the spectators, but not players. Every once in a while, we might get a say, maybe choose a leader from the specialized class, but that's about it. The bewildered herd is a term which sounds demeaning, but in Lippmann's theory, it is crucial. This group represents the vast majority of the population. And while they might be many in number, their role as defined by Lippmann is surprisingly limited. Firstly, there is a deliberate effort to keep the bewildered herd isolated and segregated. They're not meant to be in the thick of things, and they're not meant to make decisions or influence outcomes. They're just supposed to be pure spectators, and that is their simple task. But why? Why keep such a large group of people at arm's length? Lippmann believed that there was a certain danger in letting the general public get involved in their own matters. In his view, the complexities of society, politics, and economics was simply too much for the average person to understand. If they were to dive in and manage these affairs, It could lead to chaos, misunderstandings, and ultimately societal breakdown. However, the bewildered herd isn't entirely powerless. Every so often, they're given a feeling of choice. They might be allowed to throw their support behind a member of the specialized class by essentially saying that we choose you to lead us. But even this is a controlled choice, a way to give masses a feeling of involvement without actually handing them any real power. Lippman believed that for the greater good of society, it's better to keep the general public in a state of managed ignorance. In his eyes, the bewildered herd, if given too much information or power, would cause more harm than good. Okay, so if there's a small group of people that think for society, then how do you get the rest of society on board? That leads us to a process called manufacturing consent. It's about producing a mindset, a way of thinking that serves those in power. Let's start with a specialized class. These are individuals who have climbed the ranks because they've shown that they can serve the interest of the country's owners. It's a deal. Serve the interest of the elite, and you get a seat at the table. But how do you get there? Education plays a crucial role. Our education system isn't about broadening horizons or encouraging critical thinking. It's mostly about indoctrination. It's about instilling the values and interests of the private power. It's about ensuring the population is deeply rooted in these beliefs that they can't see any other way in life. If they can internalize these values that they're in, then they become part of the specialized class and they become the gatekeepers of power. But what about the bewildered herd? Their role is clear. It's to stay out of the way. They're spectators watching the game, but never really playing. And to ensure that they stay in their place, they are distracted. But how are they distracted? Several tactics are used. One of them is fear. Fear is a powerful tool. By constantly speaking of threats like terrorists lurking in the shadows, impending natural disasters, or other looming dangers, the herd's attention is diverted. They're too busy being scared to question or challenge the status quo. Another trick is the grind of the daily life. Keep them busy working and struggling to keep ends meet. When you're constantly worried about putting food on the table or paying the bills, there's little time to think about larger society issues. Poverty too plays a role. When you're trapped in the cycle of poverty and your focus is narrow, survival becomes a priority. And in our modern age, there's another tool: social media. The social media platforms, news outlets, they all play a part in shaping our perceptions and our beliefs. They tell us what to think, what to feel, and what to fear. In essence, manufacturing consent is about control. It's about ensuring that the majority stays passive, distracted, and compliant while a select few hold the reins of power. After this, there's one thing that stands out. It's the importance of thinking for ourselves. It's a very simple concept in a world filled with noise and distractions, but it's easier said than done. To build a better world, we need time to think, to reflect. It's not about abandoning responsibilities or running away from our jobs, families, or friends. It's about finding purpose and direction in the midst of it all. No matter where we are, we can pivot, redirect, and find a path that aligns with our values. The most significant lesson I've learned is not to be our own enemy. There are a lot of external factors that will distract us and are not in our power, but at least we can strive not to distract or destroy ourselves. Thank you for joining me today. And to drive the point home, let's hear a snippet from Judge Carlin talking about how war is sold to Americans.
And let me ask you this while I have you good, clean Americans here. This is a moral question, not rhetorical. I'm looking for the answer. What is the moral difference between cutting off one guy's head, or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, and dropping a big bomb on a hospital and killing a whole bunch of sick kids? Has anybody in authority given you an explanation of the difference? I have not gotten an email on this. No one will talk to me. I haven't gotten a postcard, not a fucking instant message, nothing.
Well, a lot of things have happened since the last time I saw you. Just want to talk a little bit about that war in the Persian Gulf. Big doings in the Persian Gulf. You know my favorite part of that war? It's the first war we ever had that was on every channel plus cable. And the war got good ratings too, didn't it? Got good ratings. Well, we like war. We like war. We're a war-like people. We like war because we're good at it. And you know why we're good at it? Because we get a lot of practice. This country's only 200 years old, and already we've had 10 major wars. We average a major war in this country every 20 years, so we're good at it. And it's a good thing we are. We're not very good at anything else anymore. Can't build a decent car, can't make a TV set or a VCR worth the fuck. Got no steel industry left, can't get health care to our old people, can't educate our young people, but we can bomb the shit out of your country, all right? Huh? We can bomb the shit out of your country, all right? Especially if your country is full of brown people. Oh, we like that, don't we? That's our hobby. That's our new job in the world, bombing brown people. Iraq, Panama, Grenada, Libya, you got some brown people in your country, tell them to watch the fuck out, or we'll goddamn bomb them. Well, when's the last white people you can remember that we bombed? Can you remember the last white, can you remember any white people we've ever bombed? The Germans. The Germans are the only ones, and the only reason for that is because they were trying to cut in on our action. They wanted to dominate the world. Bullshit, that's our fucking job. That's our fucking job. Now we only bomb brown people. Not because they're trying to cut in on our action, just because they're brown. Now you might be noticing I don't feel about that war the way we were told we were supposed to feel about that war, the way we were ordered and instructed by the United States government to feel about that war. See, my mind doesn't work that way. I got this real moron thing I do, it's called thinking. And I'm not a really good American because I like to form my own opinions. I don't just roll over when I'm told to. Sad to say, most Americans just roll over on command. Not me, not me. I have certain rules I live by. My first rule, I don't believe anything the government tells me. Nothing. Zero. And I don't take very seriously the media or the press in this country, who in the case of the Persian Gulf War were nothing more than unpaid employees of the Department of Defense, and who most of the time function as kind of an unofficial public relations agency for the United States government. So I don't listen to them. I don't really believe in my country. And I gotta tell you folks, I don't get all choked up about yellow ribbons and American flags. I consider them to be symbols, and I leave symbols to the symbol-minded. To me, war is nothing but a whole lot of prick waving, okay? War is just a lot of men standing around in a field waving their pricks at one another. Simple thing, that's all it is. Men are insecure about the size of their dicks, and so they have to go to war over it. That's what all that asshole jock bullshit is all about. That's what all that adolescent macho male posturing and strutting in bars and locker rooms is all about. It's called dick fear. Men are terrified that their pricks are inadequate, and so they have to compete to feel better. And because war is the ultimate competition, basically men are killing one another in order to improve their self-esteem. You don't have to be a history major or a political scientist to see the bigger dick foreign policy theory. It's